Hey everybody, it's Natalie McKenzie and it's Quaran-Tea time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for joining us. It's week 3. Yes, we have survived and folks are still coming on. Help me welcome today's amazing guest. I am delighted to say this man is a 31-year law enforcement servant, and he has served the community well. 25 years with the Englewood Police Department. He's an Englewood lifelong resident. Make some noise, throw up some hearts, like the page, invite a few friends, and help me welcome Sheriff Anthony Cureton.
Hey, good evening, everyone. How you doing?
Hey, Sheriff, how are you?
I am blessed. Too
Good.
blessed to be stressed. I'm so glad to be on the show.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We know you're busy. How I'm staying well, I hope, with all this COVID-19. You're on the front line.
I am, to the grace of God, I'm doing great.
Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. Well, Sheriff, we're so delighted to have you. And you somehow defy the stereotype of what we oftentimes consider a quote unquote cop to be. And you are likable, you're affable, you're disciplined, and you're congenial. And I have to say, the first African-American to be Sheriff of Bergen County. Wow. Congratulations and thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the voters of Bergen County who found it not robbery to go into the polls and pull that lever for Anthony Cureton.
Well, Sheriff, you won by a landslide, so forgive me. We usually stay away from politics, but tell us a little bit about that race, how you decided to get in the race, and this landslide win you had almost 2 years ago.
My decision was based on the action of my predecessor. And from that, I received a phone call from the Democratic Party asking if I'll be interested in running for the office of sheriff. And after consulting the wife and getting her blessings, I decided to run. And we had a 6-week campaign.
Wow.
And with 6 weeks? 6 weeks.
Okay.
And during that time period, I was able to convince the residents of Bergen County that I'm their candidate. And thank God it paid off.
Well, you convinced us, Sheriff, and it wasn't a very hard task because you were very well liked and very had a great reputation while you served in the Englewood Police Department for 25 years. How did you end up doing that? When did you decide you wanted to be in law enforcement?
I would say 1988, 89, after the convincing of several police officers in town who are embodied themselves on taking care of their community. So after about a month of them persistently pursuing me, I finally gave in after discussion with my father and said, okay, I guess I won't be an accountant and I'll be a police officer.
An accountant?
That was my initial desire, be an accountant.
Well,
you know, I enjoy counting money. I mean, numbers.
Well, both of them require a certain amount of accountability. So it requires integrity and accountability, 2 qualities you embody, sir. Well, but Sheriff, you were also president of the NAACP. You've been notably very active in the community, quite affable in the African-American community, in bridging the diversity gap, or rather the racial gap. How did you balance the role of being a police officer and socially active?
It's a unique balance, but I understand everyone has a purpose. And I believe my purpose was to be that officer who does the community outreach and dispel any type of stereotypes that may be associated with a community or law enforcement officers for that matter. So I label myself as bridging the gap cop. And I kind of enjoyed going out there and try to create a better relationship between community and law enforcement.
Well, Sheriff, you've certainly done that. You are certainly a bridging the gap cop. I can attest to that. But you're also very well, I would say, prepared for this role. You have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. You have a master's degree from Fairleigh Dickinson University in administrative sciences. And I see you've even graduated from a special program at West Point. I mean, you're not just the run-of-the-mill beat cop.
I must credit my parents. You have to embody yourself in making yourself marketable as possible. So between my years of pursuing my education and also having my daughters, so I could tell them, if I can do it, you can do it. Coupled with my fraternity, coupled with me serving as a deacon in a church, I wanted full embodiment, so I can go out and serve the community and have the necessary qualifications to do the jobs.
So, Sheriff, what have you noticed to be the most remarkable change in the Bergen County community since you have been sheriff? How have you been able to bridge the racial gap? Because as the first African American, I'm sure there are startling changes and challenges, rather, that you would have experienced.
I would say during my tenure, just the focus on social acceptance. Of course, with law enforcement, you come with a certain stigma. When I ran my campaign, I ran on diversity, inclusiveness, and we've been able to do that thus far. So I believe that my mindset of bridging the gap, bringing everybody together, hopefully kind of radiated throughout the county, and everybody has that same ideals that even though you're law enforcement, you can still be a person, you can still go out there and assimilate with everybody. And this is a community initiative. It's not law enforcement alone. We all have to do this together.
Interestingly enough, you've mentioned the community a few times, Sheriff, and I have seen through social media posts and just hearing other people talk about your activities during this COVID period, going out into the community and helping small businesses stay engaged with the community, having people know they're still open. Talk to us about that initiative.
Well, as you know, times are hard. Unemployment is high. Businesses are struggling. I recognize, coming from a household where my father also had a small business. But if I'm going to patronize a company or a business in this stage, why not give them the recognition during these times? Because the whole point is continued survival, and they provide a service back to the community. So I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to flourish during this time, if you want to use the terminology flourish.
So you're supporting all the small businesses and the members of the community during this time. How are you finding the Bergen County residents to be responding to the restrictions of COVID-19? We're quarantined. It's supposed to be springtime. We want to get out and get some fresh air. We're a community that shops and dines out a lot. How are we adjusting and cooperating with law enforcement?
There's been cooperation with the law enforcement community. I do understand everybody has cabin fever, and individuals want to come out, which I'm not. I'm in agreement with it, but merely walking around the block, but not congregating in the parks or things of that nature. But we have had compliance. You consider all the county parks we have, which is approximately 26. We have not received a number of complaints about people being in the parks. So there's been compliance throughout the county, and I'm grateful and thankful for that. And I hope everybody maintains that while we going through this current pandemic.
And how is crime in the community? Are we seeing an uptick, or have we seen a decrease? How's that going?
Well, I guess you could say no crime reported is a good thing, and we haven't heard a significant increase in crimes. Local municipalities have not reported anything that really deserves giving it any attention. Of course, my correctional institution over here is closed. Therefore, we're not taking in any bodies unless it's a serious offense. So for the most part, our crime situation in Bergen County is low, and I hope it'll continue that way.
That's good. So I think for a change, we're giving the law enforcement officers a bit of a break so they can help. They can continue to be first responders and support our medical staff in that case. And that's very good to know, Sheriff. Thank you, Bergen County residents. We're doing good. Sheriff, what do you see for this community on the other side of COVID? How do you think we're going to be adapting, adjusting as we try to reclaim our lives, so to speak?
It's going to be difficult initially, but I think once we get back into that, which I hope we maintain the new normal, I think we'll be all right. I mean, I think it's more of a respect level in terms of people being more conscious of their immediate surroundings. People might welcome having opportunity to have that close dialogue, So I think it's going to build that relationship. But I think after going through all this and everybody being affected in some form or fashion by the COVID-19, I think we'll be a little more passionate, understanding, and more embracing of one another.
I had the pleasure of speaking with Mayor Michael Wilds, our mayor, last week. And one of the things we talked about was watching the town of Englewood in particular shift and grow through this COVID-19. You have been an Englewood resident your entire life. Let's talk a little bit about how you have seen this community evolve over the last, well, we know you're only 30, so over the last 30 plus years, Sheriff, what have you seen as some of the most significant changes? And what does this period remind you of, or has there ever been anything like this?
I've never experienced anything of this magnitude. Closest thing, 9/11, and when we had the anthrax scare. But the community itself, of course, over time, building or increased building has changed the whole landscape of the town. But I will say that the heart of the community, which are the people and the relationships we have, is still there. From my early days watching, again, how the town kind of developed following the 1968 riots, not that I'm that old, but in the 70s, early part of the 70s, I've seen how things begin to change. And as time progressed on, community, I think, remained the same up into the early 90s, and you start to see a slow change. For the most part, Englewood's been consistent.
Now, Sheriff, in your opinion, as a resident of Bergen County, what are some of the most significant things that you think will impact us post-COVID? Because we're so close to another state and there's so much interstate travel here. How do you see us being impacted by that when we start to loosen up the rules?
Now, that's a discussion we had a meeting about this morning. How are we going to address, we live in Bergen County. It's a dense community. So how are we going to deal with, again, social distancing and the influx of individuals coming back into a condensed environment and the possibility of this flourishing again? And that's a challenge. I mean, we're going along with the governor's recommendation, suggestion on how we're going to open that, or once it begin to open, how we're going to start implementing his policies. And it's a challenge that we really have to address as it comes on. Between public trans, I mean, that's a problem. One thing we're recognizing as a concern. For myself personally, within the agency, when we open up the courts again, as you can imagine, the courts have well over 200 or 300 people going in on a daily basis. So how do we maintain social distancing in that regards? So these are some of the challenges we have.
Have we taken any special steps or precautions for those who are held in prison, well, rather in our jails here, in our county jails?
Currently, we've, I proudly say, have one of the accredited institutions in the state. And with that, we've have approximately 400 inmates currently, and we only have one inmate that's positive COVID out of 400 inmates. My officers throughout the agency, we have, I believe, 21 right now are positive and 15 in quarantine. So in all retrospect, we've done our part. Now, we've just today actually put in place a thermal camera where upon entry of any of our structures, you have to go through the thermal camera, and it'll take your body temperature, your skin temperature, to determine if you have a fever or not, and then that'll dictate you have an entry into any of our facilities. And that's down to the inmate, whom we do screening with anyway for those entering or leaving, and that applies to employees as well.
Wow, so that's a significant shift for the American society. That's something that I have long since said to my colleagues that I believe would become a new normal here. Are you finding any resistance to that?
I mean, initially there was, but I think the reality is, again, this pandemic doesn't discriminate. And for the safety of all, you want to make sure we all in somewhat of a healthy environment. So the officers have bought into it. I'm pretty sure once we go forth, the community will buy into it. And for the greater good, I think that's what we're looking to attain. So,
do you foresee that this would probably be something adapted by private institutions, like at the shopping malls, restaurants, the library?
Possibly. I mean, if it's going to give reassurance to those who patronize the various establishments. I mean, again, looking at the public sector or looking at the courts, as well as the current building I occupy, once people have heard about this, there's a little more sense of comfort. We're going in. It's one more piece to address the anxiety of dealing with this pandemic. So to know that individuals are coming in, they're required to have a body temperature of less than 100, it gives a little sense of comfort that at least individuals within your immediate sphere is can be assumed to be healthy for the moment, not have this virus.
Now, I happen to know that your daughters are of college age. One in particular was off at college and came home because school was closed. How is she adapting to homeschooling like the rest of us? She's doing, they call it distance learning because they're older, but how is that affecting her, or how is she adjusting to that?
For my oldest, she just graduated. She won't be able to walk, but she's graduated from Spelman and she's finishing up her last course right now. This generation, I think they're kind of used to doing the online stuff, but she only had one class to complete, so she's okay. My youngest, she seemed to have adapted to it. She's in her first year at Howard University, and she's carrying, I believe, 17 credits this semester, and she's fallen into place doing what she has to. The only challenge was doing the labs, which you're supposed to be in class, but of course, we can't have that right now. And they've made the necessary adjustment for it. But right now, she seems to be okay with it. Only problem you want to say, if there is a problem, sitting at the comfort of home and be a little more relaxed. But she's dealing with it, and I haven't heard any complaints from her. So, not that she may complain to me about that.
Sheriff, we know that we were sitting somewhat in the epicenter of the outbreak here in Bergen County, where Teaneck was really impacted by the COVID-19, and the Holy Name Hospital was all wrapped in the middle of it. How did the county, the sheriff's office, coordinate with the local police departments to help the medical professionals to adapt to that?
Well, I have to commend the county executive, James Tedesco. He brought all the stakeholders to the table. So between the sheriff's office, the prosecutor's office, the Bergen County Police Chiefs Association, and we all came to the table and discussed how we're going to deal with this from a county perspective. Law enforcement got together and we decided how we're going to be their support service. And on his side, he dealt with the local elected officials, how we could come together and address the various matters that came together. So leadership across the board in the county, we set the parameters. We all working hand in hand. And I think we showed some success since we've been enacted all this.
Okay. And do we currently have testing centers in Bergen County, Sheriff? Currently,
we have a testing center at Newbridge Medical in Paramus. FEMA came in and they were doing testing, or still are doing testing, at Bergen Community College, which is a regular 5 days a week, weekends off, I believe. So we've increasing more sites and making it more available to the community.
And are there specific requirements for being able to get tested? Do we need a doctor's note, a prescription, or can we just walk in with symptoms?
Symptomatic. For a period of time, you had to have a doctor's note, or at one point you'll make a phone call and you'll get screened on the phone and they'll give you the prescription via email, and or they'll give you a number that will be provided, that can't be provided at the testing sites.
So we do have readily available testing now in Bergen County.
Yes, we do.
And how long does it take for us to get our results back, Sheriff?
I believe 3 days is the turnaround date. It all depends on the state and how fast they can get it completed.
Okay. And may I ask this of you, Sheriff, are our numbers tapering off? Have we seen a downfall? Where are we?
Bergen County as a whole, we are increasing. Some of the towns that at one point were low, their numbers are growing. A township like Teaneck has been pretty stable. Englewood has been stable. Bergenfield became to a point of being stable. But the biggest concern, we have over 900 deaths in Bergen County. So we still got a little bit to work on, maybe social distancing, but a lot of those deaths, unfortunately, came from pre-existing conditions. So for the most part, I mean, our numbers exceed, I believe they said 6 states. And
wow. It's pretty frightening and tragic. It just feels like every week the phone rings with another 3 or 4 people that we know who've passed on. So it's close to home. You mentioned being a deacon, Sheriff. How are you finding that churches are adapting, and how is worship being conducted throughout the county? Because we're such an multi-ethnic community. How do you find that the different synagogues, the mosques, the temples, the churches are adapting?
So far, everybody is on the same page. When this outbreak first occurred in Bergen County, we have a Reverend Greg Jackson from Mount Olive Baptist Church who served as my chaplain. I brought him on when I came in. And he had called all the pastors in the immediate area and whoever wants to get involved outside the county of Bergen. We were on a call with about 100, from what he told me, about 100 different pastors, but those specifically in Bergen County. And we all talked about what we're dealing with in our respective community and how we're going to allow our congregations to not be put in a place of harm. So everybody is doing the online services and pretty much closed their houses of worship to practice social distancing. And it's been very successful. I haven't heard any complaints. I think folks got a little more relaxed and stayed at home, but as long as they maintain their religious obligation, I think that's all we want.
Well, Sheriff, it is absolutely a delight to speak with you. And when I think of you, I think of friend, I think of brother, I think of such a humane, kind, generous gentleman. And you really do bring a certain level of safety to Bergen County. You epitomize the motto of serve and protect. And I am proud of you as our first African-American Sheriff. I'm proud of you as a person. And I am sure Natalie is also very proud of you because you're just a kind gentleman and you bring a certain amount of humanity to law enforcement in Bergen County that we had not had before. Thank you for your integrity, sir. Thank you for always thinking of people. You've been a friend to the whole woman. You've served. And we are just so grateful for who you are and how you are constantly bridging the gap. What is it that you have on your radar this year for your community activism? Because you've been the former president of NAACP. You're always available when we ask you to help us in the community. What's next?
Ooh, that's a day by day. I see a challenge, then we take the challenge on. But for the most part, we're going to stay the course. I'm all about community relations. I'm all about bridging law enforcement in the community. I just believe wholeheartedly we can accomplish so much together versus standing apart. So looking forward, the Bergen County Sheriff's Office, we're going to be out there in the community. We're not going to divert. And I asked the community, please call upon us. I just told my command staff this morning, I proudly stood there and said, hey, we're getting a whole lot of response from the community in regards to the work and service you're providing, as well as the personalities that are, they're encountering. So if we can stay the course, it'll be great.
That's awesome, Sheriff. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Your leadership is reflected throughout the community. And so, Sheriff, if I may ask on a personal note, how is Natalie doing with you being home more than usual? Or are you never home while we're home? Which is it?
Let's see. She's probably great and smiling when I'm not there, but no. As long as I come home, as long as I pick up the phone and let her know I'm still all right, she's okay. I knock on the door, she still opens. I think of a statement my grandfather used to say, when you come home and you know you might have did something wrong, throw the hat in the house and see if it come back out. She keeps her hat and she let me walk back in the door. So I'm blessed.
You are such a kind gentleman. And it is just so heartwarming to think of you as a human with a family and not a man with a gun and a badge. And I continue to think of that when we think of you. Again, you are so likable, you're so congenial, and we are so grateful for your service. We're so thankful that you were able to join us today. Now, Sheriff, one of the things I know that was priority for you is the opioid epidemic in Bergen County. How are we doing with that, especially during this time where we're quarantined?
I think we're doing quite well. Haven't heard of many cases, especially as of late. I think the past few weeks has slowed everybody down. I think those who have an addiction problem really don't want the two to work hand in hand, and they've actually sought more assistance. If they had some type of rehabilitation program they were participating with, they were more flustered. They didn't have the opportunity to come and have these meetings. So we're what we don't know is a good thing, and what I hope there is no existence or increase in the problems with the opioid addiction. We have not put it to the side. We still welcome phone calls. Anything we can do internally, as far as directing externally to other rehabilitative centers, we're still doing that. That hasn't stopped during the COVID-19.
Awesome. Well, Sheriff, you've kept us safe with great leadership, and we thank you for that. Your community service speaks for itself. You have received several awards. I believe you were awarded the President of the Year for the NAACP. You received the Humanitarian of the Year award also from the NAACP, and you were awarded by the American Conference on Diversity for just your community service. Tell us a little bit about how you're able to balance your time, Sheriff.
Fortunate to have a patient wife and understanding kids, but I try to find the perfect balance. Family is first. Enjoy law enforcement, but without family, I have nothing. So I'm able to able to balance the scales. And I guess for me, I don't look for the recognition. I just go out and do the work. So because of that, it's even easier to balance the scale. And I think when I come home, the family recognize, okay, he does something he likes to do, but yet and still, he haven't forgot us. So.
That's great, Sheriff. Thank you so much. And again, your discipline and your congeniality continue to make you one of the special ones. And we hope that you set such a pace that you and your personality become the norm and what we expect and experience with law enforcement. So how can we reach out to you, Sheriff, if we need to reach the sheriff's office? Is there a phone number? Is there a website? How do we partner with you?
You can reach us at 201-336-3500. You have the phone prompts that get you to whatever respective area you want to go to. We have a website, www.bcsd, Bergen County Sheriff Department.us. And we also have a app. You go to your local app store and put in Bergen County Sheriffs. You can download the app. It comes for Google as well as Android.
And what information would we get? What would we get from accessing that app, Sheriff?
We give you every update, especially during COVID-19. We provide everything. If there's a traffic situation to avert going in that direction, we'll provide that information. So daily updates. You need to look and see if a family member is currently incarcerated within our facilities. You may have access to that. It also direct you to our social media pages, to our website, a host of other things, and we're just letting it grow. So we look for the input, but we also asking for everybody to please download it and get those instant notifications of any problems or information for that we want to get out to everyone.
That's excellent, Sheriff. A very progressive department you have going there. You have over 600 employees that you manage, I understand, civilians and law enforcement. You serve and protect close to 1 million residents in the largest county in the state. Wow, Sheriff. How do you keep keep your cool about it all?
Again, I must say, I'm blessed to have the staff that I have, from my command staff down to the security guard at the door. Everybody's understanding, and I guess they come to realize that we're here to do a job. We can not appease, but we can give everybody the resources and service they deserve. So me coming in every day, there are some good times. But there's some bad times, but they're more good than the bad. So I enjoy myself, and I can't do nothing but commend those who work here and for their commitment to doing the job and serving the county of Bergen.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. It's an absolute pleasure having you today. Thank you for taking the time to sit with us. Ladies and gentlemen, today our guest, the illustrious, the honorable, our Sheriff, Anthony Cureton. I am proud to call him neighbor and friend. Thank you so much, Sheriff, for sitting with us today. It's Quaran-Tea time. My name is Natalie McKenzie with the Whole Woman, and tomorrow's guest will be none other than Vivian Scott Chu of Time Zone International and Chu Entertainment. Look forward to joining you then and seeing you. Remember, share and like. And I wish you enough joy to give, enough life to live, enough love to share. I wish you enough. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.